Welcome. You're on the Fringe show. I'm your host, Tatiana Zalan, and I go live on Fridays at 2 p.m. Dubai time. Today is my show number 68. And as you know, the Fringe is about technology, art, and society. I help you to navigate the rapidly changing world so that you too can take advantage of the opportunities in this new digital space. Today, I'm very pleased to have a very interesting guest, Amina Mehti from Crown, and she's a continuation. Our dialogue is a continuation of the theme of the topic for March generally, which is women in Web3 and women in tech. So Amina is really very interesting founder. She's an Azeri-American founder, serial entrepreneur, multidisciplinary in many ways. She is a creative advisor, consultant with a career which spans across Dubai, Baku, Milan, and New York City. Amina is also a keynote speaker, web3 strategist, panelist, podcast guest, just like what she's doing today. And she speaks on the topics of digital self-identity, creative and tech innovation, sustainability, diversity, and inclusivity. Welcome, Amina.
Hello. Thank you for such an amazing introduction.
Right. Just a little bit more about Amina. She's because as you can see, she's very young, but she's accomplished a lot of things. She graduated from Bocconi University with a bachelor's degree in international economics and management just recently. She also has done some studies at Harvard University and at Brown University in psychology. She speaks a number of languages, including Italian, Russian, Azerbaijani. She speaks Turkish and Spanish, Arabic, and English. What a wonderful set of accomplishments. And right now, she's the founder of Crown Studio, which is a digital fashion house creating gamified luxury streetwear in the metaverse. And this is one of the projects that I hope we will talk a little bit more during the course of the interview. Well, let's get started without further ado. Amina, what got you interested in Web3?
Um, what got me interested? Honestly, sometimes I look back and I think, how did I end up here? Like, how did I end up in such a fast-growing industry? But I'm so grateful I did. And when I look back, I think a lot of it came down to just consequent events that led up to where I am today. Many of which, were disappointments, were rejections, were, letdowns. For example, one of which, when I was studying in my first year, after my first semester of college, lockdown happened. So I was very disappointed to not have had the full experience studying abroad, especially in Milan. I had to return back home and spend most of my time online, right? So as I was doing that, I got very familiar with the digital world, with especially the NFT world, which at the time was, picking up speed. And that's kind of how I got into the Twitter space, into the digital realm, into Twitter Spaces, and just became aware of the industry. Started following a bunch of different influencers and loud voices in the space that educated me about the whole platform and everything. And then paired with my experiences, because as when I returned back to Italy, I was working for different companies and being in the center of a city like Milan, which was very rich in its design and its fashion culture. I was able to fully be immersed, especially in the world of fashion, right? So as I was kind of constantly interacting with known brands, with key influential people in the space, I, was lucky to have been in meetings with big fashion households and big names. But at the same time, I felt very the negative sides of many things, which is that it was a very cutthroat industry. It was very toxic in many ways in its operations, in its, oftentimes exploitation of talents and people that are genuinely passionate about the industry. So facing those, challenges, also, just understanding that this key sector was different to how I evolved, how I wanted to evolve. It kind of paired with my, knowledge of the digital world. And I decided, I wanted to focus on decentralization, innovation, on creativity, on owning my art, right? And I was always creative ever since I was little. I've been painting, so that was something that almost of a passionate outlet for me. So I kind of paired my education, my experience in real life in the professional world, and also in terms of my passions, right? So that's how Crown came to be. And, it grew to be much more than that. And it's, much more than that today. So, it's a manifestation of pretty much everything I visioned to do in a much healthier and sustainable and inclusive perspective.
Wonderful. We'll get back to Crown. I'm really, really keen to learn a bit more about your project. But going back to to the topic of the month, women in Web3. Why do you think there are so few women in Web3 and in technology generally?
Mhm. Because it's a very intimidating industry. Um, Even me, when I was, still unsure about what I wanted to do or what industry I wanted to participate, I never even considered technology because I never fully understood how an artist can prosper in a digital space. Plus, every time you would come across a lot of, people that are actually active, they would use a lot of this terminology, a lot of, tech specific language that would be very intimidating. It would create this illusion that I need to be so educated, I need to take a completely different route in terms of my career and educational background to be able to excel in this kind of industry. So, that was kind of my impression, and I believe a lot of women share that. So I think one of the main reasons, I try to speak at events is, I try to show that it's not that scary. You can do exactly what you want to do and partner up with people much easier in our kind of industry and other tech industries as well, and grow at a much, much more exponential speed,
Mm.
right? So I definitely want everyone to kind of get into the industry because it's not as scary as it looks, and you learn much quicker than you would expect. So,
Wonderful. Yeah, last week, no, a couple of weeks ago, I had Giovanna Melfi as my guest, who I'm sure you know, because this is how we met. And she's starting at Twitter Spaces specifically to kind of demystify all the terminology that's associated with Web3 and cryptocurrencies and NFTs, of course, and metaverse and so on. So we'll see
absolutely.
how this initiative will evolve. Okay, well, now let's probably, since we mentioned Crown so many times, let's get into this very interesting project. Now, tell us a little bit more about it. How did you come up with the idea, and at what stage is it? Do you have any customers? Do you work with brands, and how exactly do you do that?
Yeah, sure. So, Um, Crown is a digital fashion factory, right? So what that means is that we produce digital fashion, gamified luxury streetwear for the metaverse and virtual gaming platforms. Our unique, essentially the most unique thing about us is that we utilize materials that are very imaginative and impossible to have in real life. So our first collection, our debut collection, is of hoodies. We've got hoodies out of crystallized dragon tears, alien blood, extraterrestrial materials, trapped stars, soaps. So we really give a fun element to fashion and give gamers the ability to be really, really unique compared to their peers. So that's pretty much in house. So our designs, and I'm the creative director of those designs. Um, we open up creation to other artists. We collaborate with other platforms, artists, and utilize their aesthetics as well in our few of our drops. But we also are a creative agency in a sense where creatives from all across the board. We've worked with New York Fashion Week designers, London Fashion Week designers, boutiques from all over the world. Just even artists from different places in the world, and also magazines in New York and Miami. They've come to us to essentially create an NFT collection that best suits their brand. And sometimes that NFT collection doesn't even involve the word NFT, right? So we offer everything pretty much from 3D design, AR filters, Solidity development, NFC integration, marketing, and even digital stores. So we pretty much can ease that transition of a Web 2 native coming into a Web 3 through all the tools that they really need. So, yeah, and one of the main reasons I decided to open up pretty much what we do locally is to encourage mass adoption, because I feel like a lot of people are very interested in the field, but they don't know where to start, right? So
Mhm.
what we would usually do is organize calls, sit down and discuss, so what is it that's, they're interested in, what they're looking to do, and then we would just progress that way. So um, that's pretty much what Crown does. Now we're looking to launch around June
Mhm.
of this year, to launch our hoodie collection, which is 891 pieces. And down the line, we'll launch more products to kind of build up your digital wardrobe and have your avatar look the coolest among everyone else.
Wonderful. And you mentioned gamified so many times. In what way is it gamified? Because there are many different ways of approaching gamification in the
Mhm.
metaverse. So
Mhm.
what precisely do you do? Mm.
Yeah, so I would say, there's many multiple different metaverses. Some that are more popular than others. Even gaming platforms like Roblox. Roblox, for example, has 30 million active users a day. So it's definitely a popular platform. What we really do is, in a very simplified terms, create skins for characters. That they can wear, that they can look different in and be recognizable in. Because I always promote this idea that fashion is the one of the best forms of self-expression, at least in my perspective. And in a gaming platform, and as we transition our identity more and more into the digital, gaming is one of the best places to emphasize that, and to show that to the rest of the people you play with. So that's pretty much what we do. We create those designs for gamers and give them a whole new spark. And yeah, that's what I mean by gamified. But I mean, if you look at it from outside of the gamer's perspective, there's also AR filters which we offer to all the holders, right? So it's what that means is that you having 80% of your life on social media, you will be able to wear that digital fashion when you're in your next Zoom call or on Snapchat, or even edit your Instagram photos to look like you're wearing that piece of fashion. That's something that is very wearable, very accessible, and perfectly, kind of integrates the NFT world with the real world, and maybe even without using the word NFT, which is something I really, really like.
It looks like you're having a lot of fun, and I'll try it one day as well. Probably I need to try it. But on a more serious topic, the metaverse itself is something rather controversial. There are lots of challenges that go with it. From your perspective, what are some of the challenges in the metaverse?
I would say the tech needs to improve in a way that, for example, from a designer's perspective, we often come across many issues in terms of optimization of files. So what that would mean is, a lot of the details in the designs that we have to be either simplified or removed or substituted because the platform cannot, load that. So that's something that I think, definitely needs to improve. On a more, conceptual level, I think mass adoption needs to happen as well, of course, because still to this day, people tell me, well, it's cool to have the digital, but I still want to wear the real life fashion, right? So how do we create that environment where how people now spend most of their life on socials? How do they also now spend a lot of their time in the metaverse, enough time to want to dress their avatars in good clothing or interesting clothing? So that's something that I think Metaverse needs to work on. And but as from a designer's perspective, I really wish they would increase their optimization numbers. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much what I think.
And how far do we still need to go with the metaverse for you to implement all these wonderful designs? Do you think it's another 2 years, 5 years, maybe even a decade?
I mean, the one thing about the tech space is that it's hard to predict. Nobody would have really expected AI to explode as the way it did, right? For example.
This year.
Um, yeah, I do think that maybe integrating the metaverse with AI would be an interesting progression and an interesting perspective, because what we see in the metaverse, a lot of it is that there's not much to do. A lot of people just use it as an exhibitionary space, which is fine, but you don't spend most of your time on in an art gallery, right? You need a place where you can live, where you can play, you can earn rewards, just like any Web 2 game, really. But something that's even more immersive, something that predicts things the human mind couldn't. And I think that AI is one of the best ways to do that, because it's much more productive. It's more, in many cases, could be much more imaginative. So yeah, I think once that gets integrated, as well as the actual technology improves, then you'll definitely see a mass adoption. Also, another angle could be social media. Once social media starts transitioning and including more of VR experiences, now that we have photos and videos, what if we start having more immersive experiences? Once that kind of progresses, it will kind of give those stepping stones to what we call Web3. So, yeah.
Great. And if you are to look at, well, women who want to get into Web3 space and they can't, what would be your maybe advice for these women? How do they get into this space? Do they experiment? Do they just go for it? What do they do?
Well, I think, yes, definitely experiment, because I started my project not knowing. I mean, I did watch a lot of content. I mean, I read a lot of content. I participated in Twitter spaces and, interacted with the community, but I still, looking back, I was very lacking in my knowledge. I didn't know much about, how NFTs would actually be sold, for example, or what it means to how do I even program the smart contract and all those details. So what I did is I just went for it, and I started to work, and I started to kind of put things together. And as you go, as you work, many things you learn along the way. And some people are so scared of failure, and even I faced that a lot. I still in many ways am hesitant in some areas, but that's when I know that that's the biggest room for growth, because if you fail in something, then you will get much more of a reward than in many cases if you succeed, right? Because it's such a fantastic learning opportunity. And that's exactly why I also wanted to start my own thing, because I felt much more responsible for it. I felt that I could invest much more of my time into it. I was passionate about what I did. So I'm a
Mhm.
very big supporter of people that just do what they love. And if you do something that you truly from the heart believe that it could work out, then there is no reason it shouldn't. And if it doesn't, then you'll learn and you'll do something even better. So that's how I encourage people in a more, not from a knowledge perspective. I would say to just get involved, start following people, start following spaces, get on Discord, even Instagram for fashion, for example. Instagram is still quite a big social media platform. So
Yeah, wonderful. And maybe one of the kind of my last questions, maybe, or maybe, well, we can go on with it. But you're a very young person, Amina. What, you're 22, right?
yes, I am.
Well, and to know you seem to know what you want in life. I teach young kids, young people like you. They're probably in the late 20, no, sorry, late teens to very early 20s, and it seems to me some of them do know what they want to do in life, but many, the majority, don't, and they're struggling, and I can see that, and they can't find the way. So,
Mhm.
what advice, what tips would you give to people your age? How do they find themselves?
This is a very good question, because if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would have been one of your students who knew nothing about what I wanted to do. It actually gave me quite a complex, because I would, everyone around me would pretty much know that they're going to be a doctor, another person's going to be a financer, or they're going to be in banking or do something like that. It actually, even in the first year of college, I was applying for internships at investment banks, and look at me now. I'm doing something so different, right?
Right.
So it's quite, interesting for me to hear you ask that question. But I think, you know, as I said, like I never really knew from the beginning. I was experimenting so much. I liked so many different fields. I actually never even thought I would end up in fashion. I've been very, very passionate about painting. I to this day love fine art, you know. So I even considered maybe doing consulting and then eventually coming to art, you know, something like that. But, you know, I feel like what I would suggest, right, when you're trying to find what you want to do and who you want to be, is to just stop thinking and just do what you want to do. Stop thinking because when I was in school and when I was, you know, getting into the professional field, I oftentimes wanted to push away the idea of doing art or doing something creative because I had the whole stereotype that was programmed into my mind, you know, by society that, you know, doing art or doing what you love will lead you to be the starving artist. You will
Mhm.
not never make enough money to sustain yourself. You will never be able to progress as much as your banking friends would be able to, for example. And, you know, looking back, I'm thinking, well, look at me now. I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. And, you know, I'm able to make enough to be able to, you know, run the company. So it's it's not it's just turn off your head and do what you love and you will always find a way. That's what I would say. And, you know, to have that sense of bravery and confidence that, you know, no matter what comes your way, things will work out. And you know, as I said, if they don't, then
Mhm.
it's for the better.
And were your family supportive of your ideas of where you wanted to go? Yeah,
Yes, yes, I
that's
was very lucky. I am very lucky to have a very supportive family, both emotionally, you know, and physically. Like they've always been there for me. You know, oftentimes I watch these videos actually on social media where they talk about like the entrepreneur's struggle, which is like every day is different. Sometimes you work 10 hours a day, sometimes you just, you know, sleep all day, have no motivation to do anything. And it's always like every day's crazy. And of course, I've had my own pitfalls. I've had times where I thought, "Ugh, why am I even doing this? Like this, there's no point or there's no future in it." And it's my family that supported me. You know, they've kind of made me re-believe in what I'm doing. And it's very important, you know, if not family, then friends or close
Mhm.
ones that are around you. If you have um, a very close circle that you
Mhm.
trust, that you can always come to when you're having a hard time, it's just, you know, it's everything really.
Wonderful. Amina, correct me if I'm wrong, but you really decided not to go for a corporate job, right? You don't have a corporate job. Crown is what you do, or are you still doing something else on the side?
I Crown is what I do. Yes, Crown is what I do. I had corporate jobs or, you know, jobs when I was in college. So I worked with I've
Mm-hmm.
done marketing. I've worked with as an assistant in other
Mm-hmm.
brands locally for luxury brands in Italy. So I do have working experience, but I was lucky to be able to pick things up with Crown quite fast, and you know, for us to succeed quite quickly. So
That's
it's been
great.
good.
And that was a very conscious decision, right? Not to go for a corporate job, but just do your
It
own thing.
Believe me, it is very stressful because, you know, that stability of having a paycheck every month, then running your own thing is sometimes as an entrepreneur, you think, oh my gosh, like I just want to get my money and be done with it, you know? But then when I think about it, I'm like, I can't do something I don't love, or I can't do something that I genuinely don't enjoy, you know? And nowadays, I think everything is so competitive that oftentimes you might lose yourself in the pursuit of a job or of something you believe will sustain you monetarily. And also, I'm really big believer in like feeding your spiritual side and your, you know, your more emotional side of things, because we are people, right? We're not born to work, we're not robots. So I mean, if you love your job, you're so lucky too. But oftentimes it's not the case. I've even in the NFT world, I come across so many people that say, "I've quit my job today. It's the happiest day of my life," you know. And you know, some people are lucky to get there earlier than others. So
Yes, indeed. Well, this is such a wonderful story. I mean, and I'm certainly will be looking at how you develop and what you do, and we'll be watching you, so to speak. And where can people find you, Amina?
yeah, so we are on Twitter at Crown, which is spelled KRWN_studio. And it's the same user handle for Instagram as well. And if you go on our link in bio, you'll be able to also join our Discord. So you definitely should do that. We've got a lot of really cool giveaways coming up, tickets to fashion shows, backstage passes. You know, we have also really cool collaborations coming up and a fun, I want to say, giveaway during NFT NYC next month. So definitely watch out for all of that coming out.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Amina. I'm sure people have got a lot from it, and particularly young people. This is, yeah, because, well, I'm an educator and I want, hopefully, people can learn something from me.
Yes.
And from you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you so much for
all the
having
best
me.
with Crown, all the best with all your endeavors, learning farmer languages, which I'm sure you don't need, and traveling the world. Great. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much for having me, Tatiana. It was a pleasure.